I think everyone can hear me. So initially it was supposed to be in French, but I think it's better to present that in English. It would be easier for the audience to understand. So I present myself. It's Benoît Delcroix. So I'm a researcher at the Energétique lab. It's part of the Hydro-Québec Research Center, and our focus is mainly on the customers of Hydro-Québec. It's mainly on how the energy is used, the electricity is used by the different customers. So it can be commercial, institutional, residential. So it's part of our job to deal with them and to try to optimize their energy use. So in my today's presentation, I want to share with you a project that we have about a potential disclosure of data related to building energy use. So the idea is to discuss the potential of this data, what we can do with it, and what we should do actually with it. Before going there, I would like to say that the presentation will be a little bit interactive with you. So I would invite you to scan the QR code and try, maybe for those with computers, you can just join at the slido.com website and to insert the number so that you can interact with me. So it will be activated only when we get to the right slide because that's where the questions are. So before deep diving in the core topic of disclosure of data related to building energy use, I would like to put a little bit of context surrounding that topic. So as everybody knows, we are facing environmental challenges, including climate change, of course, and then it requires that the society takes actions to decarbonize the society. So that's one of the big challenges of our time. So I would like just to put in context that within the province of Quebec, but actually it is the same for Canada and for the rest of the world. So here on the right, you have a graph of the evolution of previous GHG emissions in Quebec. So what we see actually, it's from the 90s up to the 2020s. We slightly decrease our emissions, but the trends that we should take to reach the future targets that we set for the future for 2030, for 2050, you see the dotted lines that gives the trends that we should follow for the remaining years. We are very far from that, and actually, if you look at the 2020 targets, 2020, it's the COVID year. So even with the COVID year, we were not able to meet the 2020 targets. The Quebec government has to buy carbon reduction credits to meet this target. So we are far from fulfilling our objectives. We have to accelerate. We are too slow. And for the acceleration, there are plenty of avenues of improvement. The first one is electrification. Of course, a first requirement before electrification is we need a decarbonized electricity. So luckily in Quebec, most of the electricity is clean, and then we have one step further compared to a lot of different states compared to Quebec. And moreover, also 50% of the energy consumed in Quebec is it's electricity. So a big step is already there for the province of Quebec. Still, it remains a 50% of energy consumption that is not from electricity, so there is still a big step to do. The second axis, it's about energy efficiency. So as Pierre-Olivier Pinault told us yesterday, we are very inefficient in the way we are using energy and electricity in Canada and Quebec also. Third one, flexibility. That's flexibility. It's the way that we can shift our energy use at the right time, so during off-peak periods, for example, so that the grid is not too much under stress during that period. And finally, and that was one of the recent news from Hydro-Québec with the action plan that requires a strong increase of the electricity capacity production. So it was in the following 15 years, Hydro-Québec should double so that we can meet all the energy requirement in the province. Just an example there, the last peak period during the winter, the maximum, it was about 42 gigawatts. So it's 4 gigawatt more than the actual capacity in Quebec. So we were forced to import a lot of electricity at that moment. And Hydro-Québec has the reputation to have abundant and cheap electricity, but even at that period, we still need to import electricity. So it's a big message that it will be a little bit more complicated in the coming years. So the topic of today, it's a focus on the building sector, and 1/3 of the energy use is actually taken by the building sector. The 2 other thirds are transport and industry. And why the building sector is so important, it's just because there is a big potential for improvement in this sector in terms of energy efficiency and how we can make the buildings more flexible in terms of energy usage. So before implementing that kind of energy efficiency measures, we need first to know what's going on with the building. We need to know what is the state of the sector. So one of the projects that we have in Hydro-Québec, and we have also collaborators about that, is to build a digital twins of the building stock in Quebec. So we work mainly with the Ministry of Environment from Quebec, and we also work with 2 universities in Montreal to help us in this task. And we are also interested maybe to partner with other actors like municipalities to do so. So the idea is really to have a virtual representation of the building stock in Quebec so that we can simulate different different scenarios so that we can identify the best measure that we can implement in the park, in the building stock. So what are the 3 components of these digital twins? Mainly we have the data library, so that's the core topic of today. We need to gather information about the building sector. The second component is a library of models. So we want to have like typical models of different archetype of building archetypes. So it means like a typical building in the building sector. So for example, with the universities, we have already developed some building archetypes models that represents the single detached house, the school, and other kinds of typical building that we can find in Quebec. And the idea is to expand that so that we can represent all the different typologies of buildings inside the province. And then the last part, it's for later, I would say. It's a simulation platform so that all the work that we did, that we are going to do about the data library and the models library can be valorized in the simulation platform so that it can help address some questions about the building sector. So I emphasize the part of the data library. So, I mean, what kind of data that we need? Normally there is some animation, but I lost the animation, unfortunately. Anyway, that's fine. The kind of data that we need is fourfold. We have 4 dimensions of data that we need. The first and the easiest, it's actually the weather conditions, because of course the building energy use is very dependent on what's happening outside of the buildings, and the colder, the stronger the energy use, of course. A second kind of data that we need is everything related to geospatial characteristics. So firstly, of course, the land use registry. That's an easy one because most of the provinces and most of the municipalities provide this information about the land use registry, providing what is the kind of building there, what is the square footage, and all the information that we need to characterize a little bit how the building is. And we try to complement that with other open source geospatial data from OpenStreetMap, for example, or Bing Maps, so that we have the footprint of the buildings. And the two last categories are actually the most complicated in a way. The first one is about the building characteristics. That kind of information, generally, it's very complicated to get. We have some building surveys that provide some information about how the buildings can be built, what is the kind of mechanical system that we have in the building. So that's the kind of information that we can have, and when it's missing, we have to comply with the building codes. But most of the time, the buildings that are built for a certain at a certain year should follow the building codes, but it's generally not exactly the case. So what we estimate, it's not really what's really are. So that's it. And the last portion is about the operations of the building. So the easy part, because we are Hydro-Quebec, we can have data about what's happening in the building and what is the quantity of energy that is used by the building. So for the energy providers, we have the information for electricity, but still some buildings can be also fed with natural gas. So there are other energy providers that we need to convince to share their data too. And there are other kind of data about occupancy, or how the building can be occupied, will influence a lot what's going on in terms of energy use. So once we have all this information, the goal is actually to build the database that we would like to make it public, of course. So we need a database that is very well structured, so that everyone can use the data that is in it. We need something that can be updatable over time, and then also, but that's the second objective actually, it's to make it public, so that people interested in using this data can use it for different applications. That's the point, the application. What kind of application can we think about? We just talked about the digital twins of the building, but it can be very simpler than that. A first example, it's just to generalize the building energy rating in Canada. For now, it's just something that is not mandatory. While in Europe, every building is actually rated, and then we should copy that kind of policy, so that we have a better understanding of what's happening in the building sector. That is, as I said earlier, a very energy consuming sector. So that would be that kind of report ID of the building that could be implemented quite easily. You have here the example of Energuide, which is the building ID that is sponsored by Natural Resources Canada. In it, you have the information about the energy use intensity, so it means like the amount of energy that is used per square meter per year by a building, so the lower the better, I would say. You have also the information about the share of each end-use, energy end-use in the building, and also what is the source of energy, natural gas, electricity, what is used in the building. So that kind of report for each building should be very useful. By extension, that comes directly to the second ID of that. We can map actually all that, so that we have a better view of the energy efficiency of the building stock. So you have here an example of the city of Paris. where we have for each of the buildings the energy rating of the building. So it would help every municipality to target what is the neighborhood that we have to focus on. For example, here we have a very big island of red points, so that we know we have to focus on this neighborhood, because that's where a lot of energy is used for a very few quantity of buildings. So that's kind of application that you could imagine for the buildings. So now it's the moment of surprise. I don't know if it really works. It sounds to be working. So you have the possibility now to provide some ideas of application that you see for that kind of data and what would be useful. Even if you're not expert in the field, maybe just provide some suggestion, some comments, and maybe it would be interesting. So I don't know if people look at the phone just to fulfill the surveys, or is it for other aspects? I don't know. We'll see. So I'll let you a couple of minutes so that I can drink a little bit. Your message should be shared directly on the screen. But don't be afraid, normally you are anonymous. Somebody is trying or not? Does it work? That's the first time I tried, so it can be a complete failure, maybe. Okay. So what kind of information we have there? That's cool, because actually I can collect all the information and I will process that later. It will be on my account, so that's great to have ideas for the future. So I'll leave you a couple of more seconds. Yeah, one comments about when buying or selling homes. Actually, that's something that is done in France. A building that is that has a very low rating cannot be put on the market anymore. So it involves different. It leads to different difficulties. In the sense that the building cannot be put on the market, so it will decrease the offer of buildings. But still, it's a good way to retrofit the buildings in a way. So thank you for the first slide. There is a second one in the future, so I would like another input from you. So as soon as we have all these ideas, what do we do? I mean, we need to implement the different steps that allows us to get to the data that we want, and then we need to put that all together. So I try to identify the different steps that we should follow to get all the data needed. I'm sure I missed some points, and that's the part of the interaction with you. It's probably something that you can provide also if you had some similar project. So the first step I saw is the identification of needed data. So we already did it in a way because we provided a list of data that we wanted before, and that's the first step, of course, to know what kind of data that we need, so that we can identify the different providers of data. And that's the topic of the second steps, is to identify the data partners, the data providers that can provide these data needed for the different application that we target. Third, once we have everything we need, we have to set up all the technology so that we can set up the database that can be updatable and that is well structured so that everyone could use it easily. And that's the final points of that. It's to define the policy, the access policy, because some of the data that would be obtained, probably they are related to privacy. So sometimes some of the data cannot be shared because of legal issues. So we have to deal with that stuff also. And at the end, we need to, of course, have a better access management so that the people that can reach certain data can have it, of course. So I'm sure I'm missing some points there, so I will ask you there to put your ideas in the second slide or later. Before that, I just want to show you a very good examples of successful case that was done also in France, and actually I think it's the same project as the city of Paris, but here actually it's at the scale of the entire country. There is a database that was built in France, which is called the National Building Database, and basically you have all the information about the building energy use inside the whole country. So you have more than 50 million buildings that is listed in this database with all the information in terms of energy. So something similar in Canada and Quebec would be very interested, so that we can implement better measures in the future. Of course, as you see in the picture, at the top of the picture, it involves to get a lot of partners at the same place. And it's very complicated to have everyone working together. So here, for example, you have the IGN, so the Institute of Geographic Institute. You have the Land Use Registry. You have energy provider like Enedis. You have the people working on the building energy rating, and you have other institutions. So it's already complicated to work with two people, and then imagine when you have to work with a lot of different actors, and you need a common willing from every actor, so that all this plan, all this application can be put together and can be effective. So that's the idea for the future of that in the future. 5 minutes, okay. So before going to that, we have multiple obstacles to go through. There is a question of data availability. Of course, some data actually are not existing, so we cannot get something that doesn't exist. So we are forced to estimate these data, or trying to collect the information that is needed so that that kind of project can be done. There is an obstacle about the data quality. Sometimes the data provider doesn't provide very accurate data, so we need to deal with that. Sometimes the metadata about these data doesn't provide an accuracy level, so it's very complicated to know if we can trust these data. The third point about win-win partnership, of course, that was the point of the last slide. It's everyone can work together if they feel there is an interest for everyone. So it's a condition so that a project can be successful. And sometimes it's possible to work around that through legal issues, so that people are forced to release data because it's legally needed. And that brings us to the last point, which is legal issues that we have to deal with. Data privacy, of course. As you know, energy use of individual households are private data, so we cannot easily use it for that kind of application, except if we anonymized the data. I'm sure there are plenty of other obstacles, and that's the topic of the last Slido, and probably it's active now, and I know it remains only a couple of minutes, but that's the last slide, and I have just the conclusion. So please take 1 minute to get through, and I'm sure you have some ideas of obstacles about that. I think it's activated for everyone, I'm sure. It's not a failure, actually. It works. Great. I don't know. I don't know if someone can put her or his name so that we are sure that the comments. 2 participants. Great. For test. Great. Well, no problem, I would say. It means that there is no obstacles. That's great. So I will go to the last slide. Management. Okay, there is a problem with management. It's great. So I will just deactivate the slides, and then I go to the conclusion. It's in 3 points. It's very fast. There is a long way to go. Of course, there are plenty of people to put together. We have a long discussion, and to be sure that the agreement between people can be done. But we have everything we need to succeed that kind of resources. It was already done in the other countries. It's just a question of technology that we have. Data are available, even if some is missing. The majority of the data that are needed are there. The human resources, the skills of people are there also. A lot of people work in the field, and the skills is there, and there is no issues about that. IDs, well, there are plenty of applications that we can do with the data, so it's a great, there are a lot of possibilities to do with that. And then the last point I would say, it's probably the most important, it's the willingness to do that. So I'm intimately convinced that that is a very important project that can be useful for everyone. So thanks, and if you have any questions, I'm not sure there is still time for questions, maybe. 1 minute, okay, so maybe one. Thank you. Okay. Or you can put directly there. Maybe I will just cancel my account.